What is up, tubers? It is Skyfly51 here, and today I'm bringing you a video comparison between the Kyocera Rise from Virgin Mobile and the LG Optimus Slider. Now, one thing to note, and I do apologize for, guys, is that on the LG you can see how there's like all this dust underneath the screen. I originally had to repair this phone and take it apart, and I do a lot of yard work, and so the dust just got inside of it. Excuse me. So now I am quite familiar with both of these devices. I used the LG here for about a year and a half before I decided to upgrade to the Kyocera, which I've now had for a few months. And personally, guys, I have to say you get what you pay for, the LG, because I spent about $140 for this when I bought it. This I bought on sale for like $70, and big difference. I mean, just straight out of the box, these are both keyboard phones. The sliding action on the LG, virtually silent, it's very smooth, very impressive. The Kyocera, even without this case, guys, this is just an add-on case. I got the phone as normally this gray right here, but I mean, this is just nowhere near as nice or smooth. The case really does not affect the sliding much, and so yeah, that's definitely one very easy thing to notice. Another physical difference is just the screen size. I do believe the Kyocera is at a 4-inch, and I believe the LG is like a 3.5, something like that. Physical size comparison, you can see that the LG is not a lot smaller. I mean, width-wise, it's not a very big difference. Thickness, not a huge difference. Obviously, the case has a little bulk to this, but both phones are bulky, just due to the fact that they are, in fact, sliders. But most of the difference between these phones is under the hood. It's not the physical phone itself. The Kyocera is currently activated, the LG is not. But I do have the LG running on Wi-Fi. This has been factory reset yesterday, so I don't have much installed on it, but I'll go in and show the difference in Android version. This is running 2.3 Gingerbread, and the Kyocera, I believe, is running a version of Ice Cream Sandwich. Let me go into both the phones' settings here. We can find out. Okay, so the Kyocera is running Android 4.4 and the LG is running 2.3.4. So big difference there. I mean, both operating systems are nice. Obviously, Ice Cream Sandwich does have a lot of new features, you know, such as the multitasking. I'll kill that over, you know, Gingerbread, which did not have those. Both phones are very similar. They both have 4 buttons down below. The LG has home, menu, back, and search, and then the Kyocera has back, home, multitasking, menu. So they don't have the dedicated search key anymore, but quite frankly, that's not really a huge deal. I mean, you can very easily get the Google widget like this still has, or, you know, just quite frankly open the browser yourself. Makes it very easy. The things, I'm sure my Kyocera is probably defective, but the Wi-Fi still will not work properly. So right now it's on. If I go into settings and turn it off, now I probably won't turn back on without the phone freezing, because every time I normally try to turn on Wi-Fi, the phone will freeze or restart, or whatever, and I have to hard reset it. Of course, it works fine for me in the video, but that is a big problem I've had. I've also had an issue where I press the dedicated camera key and it opens up the camera app and says that it cannot connect to the camera. But that has since remedied itself, so I don't know. Definitely, like I say, just the quality difference between these two phones. How far as how smoothly they run, I mean, they're both Android, obviously. Quite frankly, the LG runs smoother. This has I believe, an 800 megahertz processor running on Gingerbread with, let me open up CleanMaster and see how much RAM both these have, but I believe it's about half a gigabyte of RAM, and it runs very responsive, very smooth, no complaints. Not everything is compatible, obviously, with Gingerbread anymore, but it does a very nice job. But if we take a look here from CleanMaster, the Kyocera has a total of 357.43 megabytes of RAM, and the LG has 420.72 megabytes of RAM. But this is running Ice Cream Sandwich with a 1 gigahertz processor. So, you know, I have to question, why did Kyocera put such a small amount of RAM in the phone? I don't know. But I can tell you that the performance definitely lacks because of it. It hangs a lot, things crash a lot. It's just not a very good experience. But the main issue with the LG is that if we go back into our settings on both phones and go to applications, it is very easy to see the difference between these two phones. Now, the LG, oh boy, if I can get the camera to focus here. Maybe, maybe not. Alright, anyway, it has 145 megabytes used, 36 free. You can see that's a little bit free over there. The Kyocera, on the other hand, has 575 used internal and 409 free. And so it's very easy to see that with, you know, roughly 200 megabytes in the LG, you can't really install much. I mean, the Facebook on here is still the 100% stock factory version. It has not been updated. Of course, when that updates, that chews up about 50 megabytes. And so basically I cannot install anything on the LG, which is why I switched away from it. But it was a good phone for quite a while. The LG also, the messaging app bogs down if you have a thread with a very high number of messages, up over, say, 200-300. It tends to bog down pretty bad. Whereas the Kyocera, I don't really notice any big difference, whether I have 100 or 1,000. It doesn't really seem to matter too much. So let's clear the RAM on both of these devices using CleanMaster. Okay. Alright, and now getting to the cameras. These are both, I believe, 3.2 megapixel. But there is a huge difference between them. They both do 480p video. They both have dedicated camera keys in the same positioning on the phone. As you can see, a very similar camera app, because both these phones are very vanilla for the most part. Both, I believe, have digital zoom, but the main difference is that the LG, if you use the camera key, press down halfway, and you can see it'll focus, although it doesn't particularly like the table. There we go. The Kyocera, on the other hand, has no focus. There's no touch to focus, there's no half press, nothing. It is set as one focal range, and so therefore all of the pictures kind of turn out soft and not very good, especially if you're trying to get a high amount of detail on a particular image. does not do a very good job. So we have the LG and the Kyocera both on the same Wi-Fi network, so I'll go ahead and run a speed test on both of them. As well, when that finishes, I'll also be running a quadrant standard on both of them. I'm just going to quit out of the app and go back into it on the Kyocera since it looks like it's having issues. So I don't want to run the test on this one while that one's trying to locate, or run the test on both, because I don't want to bog my Wi-Fi down and get any slower than what the device will come up with as a speed, although I don't have the fastest Wi-Fi, so they both should do fine. Alright, well, I'm going to run the test on the LG because the Kyocera just seems to be taking forever. Alright, and now we will begin the test on the Kyocera. The LG got 3.28 megabits download and 0.85 upload. That's pretty much par for the course with my Wi-Fi, as we do get 3 meg Wi-Fi, obviously. Alright, and the Kyocera got 3.4 download and 1.59 upload, so it did get faster upload speeds, but no real appreciable difference on the download. And so now we will fire up Quadrant Standard on both devices. And we'll run a full benchmark. So guys, as we can see straight from the get-go, that the Kyocera definitely has a more powerful CPU in it. But we shall let these two phones run and see what they come out as. Obviously, as I said, the LG just got factory restored yesterday, and so therefore there's not very much installed in it, whereas the Kyocera I've been using, and I have, 500 some megabytes worth of apps on it, and I do have an SD card with a lot of, I wouldn't say a lot, but probably about half a gigabyte of files on it and such. The SD card in the LG is, I believe, completely empty. So, you know, something to keep in note that the Kyocera is dealing with a lot more in the system, and I have been using it, you know, on the day-to-day basis. Alright, and we're keeping about 37 frames per second, 32. Yeah. So it's kind of jittering around a bit. I'm real interested to see how it does with the DNA. We're still hanging in there at 30 on the planets. And the DNA is in at 18, now it's done 11. And it's already done. Yes, I would like to send those results. And as if we take a look here, the LG is not finished with the CPU yet even. And the Kyocera has completed. The Kyocera got a final score. Got a final score of 1,933. The CPU is 1,938. The memory is 1,225. The I/O is 4,518. The 2D graphics are 737, and the 3D graphics are 1,247. So, not the best numbers out there, but then again, I mean, it is a budget Android phone. This, when it was released, was, I believe, a mid-range. Obviously, it is old and no longer a mid-range, as it is still 7 out of 8 on the CPU. So you can see, guys, how the Kyocera has significantly more processing power, but due to the lack of RAM, it really actually, I think, runs more laggy and just not as well. And the LG is just finishing up with its final CPU test. So this is only getting about 17, 23, 16, still jittery, just like the Kyocera, but definitely lower, obviously. Well, it's still hanging in there about 30 some frames per second on the planets. I can just see the DNA is choppy. Yeah, it's down at 11. Not moving. Yes, I want to send the results. Alright, and the LG got a total composite score of 654. CPU is 631, the memory is 808, the I/O is 581, 2D graphics are 330, and the 3D graphics are 919. So you guys can just tell that the Kyocera is just blowing the LG out of the water in every way on the quadrant. Quite frankly, this phone still does not run smoothly on the day-to-day use. So, obviously, with the slider, guys, let's talk about the keyboards. It's the whole point of having a slider. Both phones have a nice keyboard. The LG I felt very at home with when I bought this phone. The keyboard feels very nice. The keys are maybe a little small for having a full slide out like this, not like a BlackBerry style, having a landscape keyboard. But I mean, it does work very nice. Say test message, so you guys can see I'm able to punch out a message pretty fast on this phone. And it also, I can't forget to mention, has some nice features such as the emoticon button, all the home menu, back and search right over here. A lot of different functions, symbol key, the @ symbol, .com. It has a lot of extra little things like that. The Kyocera also has a nice keyboard. These keys are spaced wider and larger, although this top row is very close to my case. You can see my case is just rubbed completely white. But this keyboard did definitely take some getting used to, due to the fact that it's all shifted left. So it's like cascaded left here. And this is straight on this side, so it does make it awkward to get used to, and it doesn't have as many of the fancy keys like the LG has. There's no home or anything over here. It doesn't have an emoticon key. The .com is not a separate key, it's part of the function. Also, another problem I've been having is on certain websites, the physical keyboard, the capitalize and function keys won't work. But still a good keyboard. Okay, as you can see, I mistyped that, but it's still pretty fast and smooth experience. So, I mean, both phones have a nice keyboard. No real difference there. So, I mean, if you have the LG and you're thinking of upgrading, I would definitely consider how important is the keyboard to you. So obviously right now the Kyocera is the only phone offered with a physical keyboard, but I definitely cannot recommend the Kyocera Rise. I've had a lot of little annoyances with it, and I just can't recommend it. Although the battery life on both these phones is very good. I gotta say that for the Kyocera. If I'm playing a game, it does very good on battery. They're both, I believe, 1500 milliamps. The LG you can buy a extended battery, which is 3500 milliamps. Obviously, it doubles the thickness on the back. I did have that for a while until I bloated it, and it did a nice job until I bloated it, and then afterwards it didn't, do very well because it was half bloated. Then it did only slightly better than the factory battery. It was not any big improvement over the factory battery. But I'll go ahead and fire up Hill Climb Racing here and just do a experience difference, just to see on just a basic game how the experience is between these two phones. You can see the LG already has the game. Alrighty guys, so I just have sorry about that, my camera died. So I just have the stock Jeep on both of these. Well, the Kyocera I've obviously been playing a lot and have a lot of vehicles and such. The LG I haven't really played, so I'll play these both at the same time. You can see even on both these devices, even just pressing next on the menu is quite challenging. And we'll go to the same place on each. There's a pretty good, I don't know, really this game runs pretty laggy on both phones, quite frankly. But you can see how the Kyocera is kind of choppy. But the LG, I don't know, it's smoother significantly, but they're both not very good. I mean, both these phones have pretty pixelated LCD displays. I mean, as far as, like I said, pixel density is about the same between them, probably. Although this phone is larger. But, I know my camera's not going to focus in, but... So, I mean, neither one of these phones are super, super high-end LCDs. Yeah, see, it's not going to focus in, but... if you're doing a lot of video watching like Netflix, I probably would not recommend either of these phones really, unless, if you're coming from something that's a higher end display, because these are both pretty bad. But, if you're thinking about upgrading, like I say, really just, do you want that physical keyboard? To me, that's a big feature, so I keep the Kyocera, but personally, if I can find a different replacement that Virgin would come out with, I would probably buy it. If the physical keyboard wasn't a big deal for me, I would definitely switch away from this, because it's just flat out not very good. Obviously, both phones do have an on-screen keyboard, both in the portrait and landscape. The on-screen keyboard on the Kyocera is significantly easier to use than the LG, just due to the screen size. But then again, this is running the Google keyboard, this is running the Android keyboard, so different keyboards. But the screen size really matters, really makes a difference if you're trying to type on the screen. But I prefer the physical keyboard. So, I mean, those are really just most of the main differences. I mean, all those exteriors. They have the headphone jack on the same side. I mean, they got the exact same layout. This has a little dust cover, the Kyocera does not. And, I mean, camera keys are in the same place. The microphones are both on the bottom. Cameras are a little different. Both have speakers. They both sound pretty good. So, I mean, they're both good, decent. This was a very good phone. This is an okay phone. This I did root at one point, and I had some issues with it just randomly hanging up on phone calls. So I would not probably recommend rooting this unless you want to get the crapware off like I did, and I just unrooted this yesterday. That's why I factory restored it. This I have not rooted. I have no plans to root this. There's plenty of storage. There's no crapware. I personally don't even like this phone very much. I wish this phone had more memory, because then I would just personally keep this and use this. But the whole point of having a smartphone is running some apps. The Virgins, at least in Rockford, Illinois, the 3G is very slow on both these phones, although I do notice a appreciable faster 3G connection on the Kyocera, even though it's still pretty slow and useless, but I can tell it's a big speed difference. So guys, really, I mean, that's pretty much most of the big highlights of the differences between these phones. And if you want to upgrade, those are the things you're going to want to consider. If you have the Kyocera right now, or if you broke your Kyocera and you're looking just to buy something cheap and used, just get another Kyocera. Don't downgrade to this. I mean, that would just be a complete waste of time. Anybody who has one of these who puts a case on it knows the slider does not work good with a case on this. Because this works very nice, it's very smooth. With a case, it was very, very awful. You can see the difference between the screen and the main body of the phone. Is a very small amount of wiggle there. The Kyocera has a very large amount of wiggle. And the screen part feels much looser from the phone, even straight out of the box. This is still significantly tighter, and I've used it a year and a half of me doing this to it, and plus taking it apart. This though does have, it will crash apps, like, so sorry, the application launcher, force close, whatever. I mean, both phones give me those messages now, so, but I think that's about all the highlights, guys. I mean, both of these phones are very durable phones. I mean, this one has the case. This one I took the case off of it a while back because the case broke. Didn't work good with the case anyway. This one I actually got water damage, which is why I replaced the LCD, which is why there's dust. But personally, guys, you know, if you're considering an upgrade, I'd say I probably would upgrade to this, just because this does not run any apps, even though this is not the highest quality phone on the planet. You know, if you're just looking for a phone, you don't really care about the apps, stick with your LG. It's a good phone. It'll treat you right. So, thanks for watching, tubers. If you could hit that like button, it would really help me out, guys.